All right, for this next part, moving into more of the assessment piece, one of the big things, you've provided your subjective, objective information. You've calculated your calculated information. Now you should have an idea of clinically what's going on with the patient, what their lab values are, what their vitals are, and kind of are seeing where their controlled and uncontrolled problems are. Just recognizing with that, as you are creating a problem list, you to do that, you're considering a lot of different information. But with the prior problem list, we want you to also start trying to prioritize that problem list. And so, things that are concerning the patient, you're going to take that into account, but also the disease state and controlled or uncontrolled is going to be important. Like, you still want to consider and think about controlled disease states, but those are going to be less of a priority than disease states that are uncontrolled. Or thinking like if you've got uncontrolled blood pressure, and again, this is where paying attention in your therapeutic modules and then being able to apply what you're learning in those to these cases is going to be important. So things like you've got uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled blood pressure. Well, in the short term, uncontrolled blood pressure is going to be more important to get that under control than uncontrolled diabetes, unless uncontrolled diabetes, the blood sugars are very high or very low and somebody's having hypoglycemia. So you've really got to start to think about and understand the disease state. Same thing with cholesterol. I mean, a lot of times people will live a long time with high cholesterol, but if they have very high things like high triglycerides that can put them at risk for pancreatitis or things like that, well, now we might bump that up and that becomes a higher priority. So a lot of that is, you've got to look at and start to think bigger and more broadly at what's going on here and fitting this all together. Again, this can be a challenge. It's a new way of thinking, but we're seeing this is probably an area where as a group, you're all struggling, is identifying problems and then listing those problems out and doing that, and then kind of being able to prioritize those things. So just be thinking about that. The other big thing that we've noticed with this is then when it comes to the assessment statement is the assessment statement format. So again, I encourage you all to review this document. We've got the drug-related problems, and attaching those to the problems is important to your assessment statement, but really getting at your assessment statement. So what is the problem? What is the severity? What is the status? So uncontrolled diabetes, secondary to lifestyle, suboptimal medication, or a drug-related problem, not taking medication appropriately, adherence, whatever that would be, as evidenced by, and then those things from the S&O that support that assessment. So this is, again, where picking the right S&O information that is supporting what you want to say here that should fit together, it should be connected. So we're seeing just a lot of paragraph style assessment statements that kind of ramble, and I think that's a lot of has to do with not really understanding what you're trying to do, and so just throwing everything in there when really you want to start to try to get focused and what is the problem, what is the status of that problem, what do we think is contributing to that, and then what is the evidence that we have to support that. And this is really important to get good at, because when you're communicating with preceptors, when you're communicating with other healthcare professionals, being able to identify, create an assessment statement that is grounded in data from the patient is going to help people accept and understand why you're making recommendations and the things that you're trying to do. So again, that's kind of the point. If you review the feedback we're giving you, but we're seeing a lot of students struggle in that area. So please look at that.